Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Stephen Chow. To moviegoers, their names may not be as familiar as their faces, but in all cases, their actions always speak louder than words. Are you one of the millions of fans around the world who've been taken into a film by the sheer wonder of martial arts action? If so, then come with us for an inside peek into the world of Kung Fu pop culture on today's edition of Person to Person. Good morning. Welcome to Person to Person. Today's guest comes to us directly from the Kung Fu Hall of Fame for writing and editing. He's worked with some of the greatest martial artists of our time and has some great stories to share with us today. Let's welcome our guest, Ric Meyers. Hi, Ric.
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Good. Let's start right at the top, Ric. How about a brief history of Asian cinema? I know that's a big subject to tackle, but keep it in
I'll give it a
1,000
try.
words or
I'll
less.
give it a try. Well, you know, I won't give you a brief one of the history of Chinese or Asian martial art movies. You'll have to read my book for that, Great Martial Arts Movies. But the American history is very simple. It's BBL and ABL, which is before Bruce Lee and after Bruce Lee. Once Bruce Lee hit, all the gates were opened, then Jackie Chan came, then Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came, which proved that martial arts movies could win major awards, and finally The Matrix came out, which was very important because it proved that white people and black people could do Kung Fu as well as Chinese people or Asian people. So those were the highlights, and we continue on from there.
Bring it a little closer to home. A lot of American films have gotten their influence from Asian cinema. Do you think they're doing that material justice?
They're doing the best they can. It's kind of like the difference between somebody like, I don't know, Adam Sandler dancing and Gene Kelly or Fred Astaire dancing. So the Americans do their best, but they don't know Kung Fu. They haven't taken it their entire life. Kung Fu in China is like baseball is here. So they do the best they can, but basically at this point, they're just putting sort of a Kung Fu flavor on everything as opposed to really getting to the heart and essence of Kung Fu. But no matter what they do, it's still exhilarating, and that's why they're using it.
So how do you become an expert in martial arts cinema?
Well, that's funny. I was working in comic books. That was my very first job in writing. And I was over at Marvel Comics, and I was in the office of a guy named Larry Hama, and I was complaining that they don't make good superhero movies in America. You know, they made these campy Batman television shows back in the 60s, and the original Superman movie with Christopher Reeve I thought was marred by Ned Beatty's character, who was an idiot. So they said, oh, you ain't seen nothing. And they brought me down, we were in New York, and they brought me down to what is called Bleecker Street Cinema, where I saw a movie called Baby Cart in the Land of Demons, which is a Japanese samurai movie. And it was amazing. It's still probably the best samurai action movie ever made. And his girlfriend named Linda Sampson, who was a photo stylist for magazines, she said, you ain't seen nothing yet. And they brought me down to Chinatown in New York at the Canal Street Cinema, which no longer exists. And I saw a movie called Drunken Monkey in a Tiger's Eye, which actually is Jackie Chan's Drunken Master. That was its original Hong Kong title, and I had never seen anything like it. It was a comic book come to life. It was everything I could have wanted, and Jackie was actually doing it. So I got all excited. I went to the libraries, and I went to the bookstores, and I tried to find books about this subject. Nothing. So I said, just like I had done prior to this with science fiction and fantasy films and television detectives, I'll have to write my own book, and I did.
You know, Ric, I heard a couple of names in there, and it got me thinking. You've probably worked with some of the greatest living or not living martial artists of our time over the years. Can you share a couple of experiences with us?
Well, it's funny that you should mention that. One of the great people, one of the great hopes for American martial arts was Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, who died tragically on the set of The Crow, and I got to meet him extensively. And he was an incredible gentleman, as are essentially everybody involved in the martial arts, because the nature of the martial arts asks you to be peaceful and good. You use it for defensive. So, you know, having met Jackie Chan and Jet Li and Michelle Yeoh and Chow Yun-fat, they're all remarkable people in terms of their kindness and their talent and their graciousness in dealing with me, Mo Guilo, as I'm known in Hong Kong, which is Chinese for hairy foreign devil. So I feel very blessed and grateful that I was involved in the introduction of this cinema into America.
When the international hit Kung Fu Hustle was released on the American DVD market, Ric Meyers had the chance to talk to filmmaker, director, star Stephen Chow. What was that like?
Oh, it was great. I mean, I've known Stephen Chow for many years, and I think he's going to be very successful in America and continues to be successful around the world because he's a comedian. He's also a martial artist. He also knows Hong Kong cinema. But the most important thing is one of the reasons that Jackie Chan did so well here is that he's funny. And American cinema isn't threatened by someone who makes them laugh. They're more threatened by somebody like Bruce Lee, who's big and muscular and might, intimidate American filmmakers, because American filmmakers always want the heroes to be big and muscular. And Bruce Lee was this little wiry guy who got muscles near the end of his life. But Jackie Chan doesn't threaten anybody because he's funny. And Stephen Chow takes that one step further because he's not even trying to make a serious film. He's purposely making comedy. The world is open to him. He's #1 in Hong Kong. He always makes the most money of any movie released in Hong Kong. And I think he'll do extremely well here because he is first and foremost a man who wants to make you laugh.
Rick, where do you think Asian cinema is headed here in the U.S.?
It's going to be an important part of action from now on because it's exhilarating to watch it. It's very exciting to watch it, and people have gotten tired of the stuff they know that's the roundhouse kind of punches that are very unrealistic. Now that they've seen Kung Fu, it will be an important part. But because there are a lot of people in America who can't choreograph Kung Fu or do Kung Fu, it will always be a small flavoring, but it will always be there for decades and centuries to come because it's the best way to fight in reality and in the movies.
You've talked to a lot of people in Asian cinema, from both behind the camera and in front of the camera. Of all those people, who are your favorites? What's
great about the martial art film world is virtually everyone in Hong Kong is great. Jackie Chan has always been just terrific with me. Jet Li is a gentleman. Michelle Yeoh is a lot of fun. I met her the day before she reported to the set of the James Bond movie she did, Tomorrow Never Dies. Chow Yun-fat, who is just incredible, and what a gentleman, what a stylish. He's like old Hollywood. You know, it's a shame he didn't live back in the days of Cary Grant and Clark Gable, because he was just an amazing gentleman. Those are the highlights. I mean, there are other people I really revere, but in terms of who I like the best and who are the most friendly and the most giving and the most erudite and intelligent, that's probably the head of the list.
Let's bring it a little closer to home, Rick. We've talked about the past and what's going on in the cinema world around all over the world, I guess I could say. What about you? What projects are you working on now?
Oh my gosh, I'm so busy. You know, of course, I've been Santa Claus at various malls over the last 2 years, and I was King in Medieval Times, which explains the brush. So I do that performing, but I also write columns for Inside Kung Fu, Asian Cult Cinema, and contribute articles to Weekly World News and DirecTV The Guide. I'm also working on a new book project, my first book in about 5 years. So my plate is pretty full at the moment.
Thanks, Rick. Today we get to take an exciting look into the world of Kung Fu and Asian cinema and the impact that subculture has had on our society. We've learned here that more than likely in the near future, this form of cinema will inevitably have a huge part in our American life. I'd like to thank our guest today, accomplished writer, editor, and critic Ric Meyers, for joining us. Thanks, Rick.
You're welcome, Mike.
I'd like to thank you for joining us for yet another edition of Person to Person. Until next time, I'm Mike Raub. We'll see you here.
Is there anything you'd like to say to your fans?
I have nothing to say.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
And I have nothing to say to you.